All right, we're starting to understand that beyond this reality there is everything in existence. All of infinity exists beyond this veil, and beyond this physical world, everything is represented energetically. So we begin to navigate our path in this reality based on an awareness that the dream world and the physical world are both a part of reality. That we are using not only the tools in this reality, but also the tools in the mental world in order to navigate through our lifelines, okay? It's pretty trippy and it's way, way awesome and also kind of simple, right? This whole book is kind of like confirming things that we already knew, okay? He talks about this as like navigating the alternative space, okay? So let's just start here with infinity, okay? On the other side of this physical world exists all of infinity, eternity, omniscience and omnipresence and all of that stuff that we hear at church. Infinity, all that exists, everything. So we're trying to understand what the flow of infinity is. Here's what we need to understand. Being present in this moment is great. People talk about that a lot in the physical, in the spiritual movements. That's great. Yes, be present in this moment. That gives you a power to be present in this moment, to be able to control your mind, to be able to hear your heart. Now, here's the thing though. If you're just present right now, then you're not able to really create anything in the future. You're just at like the whim of now. You're just surrendered to this moment. And that's not really creating anything. Everything that is now was already created before now, right? And it was all done mentally through the alternative space, he calls it, or the dream world, or the mental world, okay? So all of that, all the causes that lead to the effect of us standing right here in this place were determined before. So in that sense, they're predetermined. However, they're also determined, these choices right now that we're making are going to have implications long into the future, some more than others. Now, these options that we're constantly presented with, they come and they go. It's like a flow, okay? There are a flow of options. There's a flow of opportunity that's always happening. And we have choices here. We can fight against that flow of options, or we can just drift, right? We can just drift down it and just go wherever it leads. That leads to a waterfall, okay? Fighting against it leads to exhausting yourself, leads to eventually giving up the fight of trying to get somewhere against the current, and ultimately exhausts you and leads you to drifting, which leads you to a waterfall, okay? So what's the answer here? Well, holy paradox. It's to go with the flow of options and paddle to where you want to go, right? Think of a river, it bends here, it goes that way. You can't fight against the current. You will never win. But you also don't just want to go down it without any will, without any conscious choice, right? So it's a mix. It's both of these things. We want to enjoy the ride on infinity, but we also have specific stops that we want to get to. Now, understanding this, we are a two-part being. We have a heart, okay, also known as the soul. This is a feminine aspect of who we are. And we have a mind, okay? I can't draw a brain very well, but there, I'll try. There's a brain, okay? So we have a heart and we have a mind, all right? And we've talked a lot about duality over the past several videos. It's a constant thing. It never, ever goes away. There's always a paradox. We have to embrace that paradox in order to really gain an understanding of what is happening in reality, right? So we've got these 5 senses here in our brain. 5 senses. Then we have our heart. That's the sixth sense. Okay? The five sense reality is grounded in the material realm. What can this do? Amazing things. Some people call it the quantum computer. I love that. That's great. Well, the quantum computer can't really create anything new. It can only, as he says in the book, build an old house or build a new house out of old bricks. Everything that is new, everything that is groundbreaking, everything that is brought into the world and like mind-bogglingly good and full of soul, that all comes from the heart, which is connected to infinity. Okay? This communicates with everything. This can only communicate with the outside world and the heart. And most of our life, this has been telling this to shut up. This has been saying, what was? You know, in those moments when we are present and we can like kind of let go of that constant chatter in our mind, in those moments, there are these fluttering things. And every great thing that's ever been invented before, every great piece of artwork or scientific discovery, it's all come from here, all of it. All this can do, which is amazing, okay? I'm not trying to shortchange the brain. It's a beautiful thing. But all this can do is it can, you know, make things perfect and deal with this physical outside world. And if somebody made a technically perfectly exact, you know, thing with the brain, and it was perfect, and every stroke, it was technically perfect, some art piece, people would be like, ah, that's cool, whatever. But then Rembrandt comes along, you know, and it's what is it, Monet, just a bunch of dots, but you see from back, you know, it's completely different. Or like a new discovery is created. It's from here, it's from the sixth sense, right? And it is from this place called the alternative space, or the dream world, or the infinite film roll storage area, okay? This is where everything is already. Past, present, and future, it's all accessible here in the alternative space, in the infinity, in the dream world, and it can only be accessed by the soul. So every new discovery is not a discovery of the brain. This is the five sense navigator, and it's great, but mostly it's been telling our heart to shut up our entire life, and it's gone through chatter, talking us out of the things that we know we want, talking us out of the thing that we know we are over and over and over again. So in this chapter, he talks about how to navigate these options, because these options are going to be coming at us, and we're not really going to know. We can't control everything. We try to control everything, remember, like we're going to exhaust ourselves paddling in the river and fighting against the current, right? So we want to go with the flow, and then when our heart identifies something, then we use our mind to paddle us over there, right? We might be floating down and see something, and our heart goes, I want that. Well, mostly what happens is our brain says, no, we can't have that. It's over there. It's just not practical, and gives a bajillion reasons why we can't have that thing. And so we give up on it for whatever reason. A lot of this has to do with that law of hypnotic rhythm as well, and the things that we are taught to value in our life and in society by our family members, by, you know, our friends, by, you know, everyone. And we're not listening to our own inner guide. Well, what's interesting about this is the mind, you know, does these amazing things. It can build this new house out of old bricks, but the heart doesn't think or speak, which the mind does plenty of, but it feels and it knows. The heart doesn't think or speak. It feels and knows from this alternative space, from infinity, and that's how it gets this information. And it can communicate up to the brain, and that's how it comes in into this world. And he talks a little bit about like that process and how, some people are more apt than others to be able to tap into that process. And I know some people who are incredibly gifted at just bringing out crazy things in the mornings. A lot of times I have ideas because I'm coming out of the dream world and into this physical world, and something will float up and I'll try to write it down, and sometimes I can't read it, and then I'll get frustrated and I'm like, why can't I do this all the time? But that's a whole other story. But the heart feels and knows, okay? In the world of the heart, whenever it's considering to do something, it's either going to be a yes or a no. Now, the brain can justify, backwards rationalize, tell you why it would have been okay, or you should have done this, or blah, blah, blah. The heart would never do that because it can't. It only feels and knows. It's very binary in that it's either a very obvious yes or it's a no. And if it's a maybe, it's a no. Okay? And you know this. You've always known it. It's never not been true. Your whole life you've known. And when you hear that thing that you resonate with truly, and you're like, that's it. I'll give you an example. When I was in college, I was graduating and our band was breaking up and there was all this drama and we were kids and I was kind of a mess. And a girl came in and she talked about her internship at Costa Rica Outward Bound Rainforest School. And we had tons of people come in and talk about their different things. And she talked about the Costa Rica Outward Bound Rainforest School, and I knew that I was going to do it. I just knew I was. There was no way I wasn't going to do it. Clicked right there. I knew it. Feels and knows. So there are signs that we sometimes see and experience in the world, and they're very subtle. And they can help us and give us hints to our next actions in this flow of alternatives that we find ourselves in as time and space are moving around us. So we understand we might hear something or see something, or we might overhear something that, boom, that gives us an insight onto the thing. It's like when I was listening to this young lady talk about that Costa Rica Outward Bound school, she even had negative things to say about it, even in her presentation. But dude, I knew that I needed to go. And I met some incredible people as a result of it. I wound up going down there and doing an internship, and I worked really hard down there and learned a lot, and it was amazing. It was a great experience. And it was something that I had to do. I just knew that I had to do it. And there was just no convincing me otherwise. And there wasn't any logical reason. It wasn't because I could justify whatever I want, right? The mind is incredibly, incredibly talented when it comes to that. Now, a big thing that he talks about also in this chapter is the idea and the concept of importance. We're beginning to get a little bit of a glimpse into an emotional transaction with the universe that is another obstacle for us, right? Like we talked about pendulums. Well, importance, it kind of goes right along with pendulums in that anytime that we have a lot of importance or a lot of high expectations for something, for instance, or if we think that inside we are more important than somebody else, well, that lends that we will try to control those things. When we put something on a pedestal, we will try and manipulate the flow in order to get what we want. And doing that only messes us up. What does he say in the book? It's something like, it's like smacking your hands against the water, right? Like it does nothing but make a mess. It's just the worst thing you can do. So inner importance is a lot like ego, right? Like people talk about, oh, it's ego. You hear that word a lot in the New Age movement. Ego. And yeah, that's kind of what inner importance is. It's saying that I know better, I need control, it's all about me. Whereas outer importance would be like, that thing's a huge deal. I really want to be on stage. I want people to see me for who I am. I want, this outward expression of something, or, this goal is such a big deal to me. And both of those are going to be huge obstacles for us. even though our heart might feel a no, and we even say, okay, we're going to use our brain to strategize. Well, sometimes that will blow up in our face because we will overemphasize the thing. We will try to control it. We will try to manipulate things. We will try to manipulate people in order to get what it is that we want, instead of going with that flow and then taking those steps as they present themselves to us, right? So it's, again, a paradox of going with the flow, not just going with the flow, but going with the flow and bam, taking an action. Going with the flow and bam. Oh, I see that opportunity. That's a sign. Bam, I'm just going to take that. No importance. It's not a big deal. It's not like a huge deal, because honestly, your heart knows. Your heart is in communion with infinity, with everything that exists. Why would you have this feeling or this longing or this desire for something if it was going to be withheld from you? That would just be torture. The problem is our mind is trained through a lot of things, right? Like, what is it? Drifting and institutions, other people, our family, our friends, social norms, etc. Our mind is trained to talk ourselves out of and tell our heart to shut up the things that it wants. But through this communion of heart and the alternative space, the dream world, infinity, these things are going to come along, and then it's only up to us to have our hearts lead and then use our minds to take those next actions, to take that next step, to create that situation just by saying, yes, absolutely. There's an opportunity. I see the sign. Now I'm going to step toward it. I think it's like you just take steps to the letterbox, right? Like, it should be not a huge deal. It's just a thing that you're doing, and it's just who you are. Once you've, really felt what it is that you truly desire, then you accept that, and then you convince your mind, like, hey, mind, love my heart. My heart is here only for so long. The soul knows what it wants in this world. It knows what it wants in this reality, and if you can give it that, then these two start to work in conjunction. And I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, but that's the ultimate idea, right? Like any esoteric tradition, it's about heart and mind connection, right? And so we'll get more and more into that, but these are the main sort of ideas, that the heart doesn't think or speak, but it feels or knows. The brain uses the five senses in the reality. It can't create anything new. It can only rearrange things that have already been created. All great scientific discoveries come through the sixth sense, the heart sense, which is connected to everything that exists in infinity. And one of the biggest stumbling blocks or obstacles to us getting the thing that our heart really wants is to create a big deal about it. Whether that's us making ourselves a big deal or making the thing that it is that we want a huge big deal. So tell your brain to shut up for once. Let your heart sing about what it wants. Let it communicate. Learn to shut that chatter off and just glimpse into the depths of your soul. And then whenever you do identify that, whatever that is, that reason why, that reason for being that you feel and know in your heart, that very obvious thing, because again, if we're not sure, that's a no, that's a no. And, just navigate things without a lot of importance, knowing that divine will, or what we'll talk about as outer intention in this book, is going to provide for you whatever that next step is, and you take that step. That's going to do it for this video, folks. I really appreciate your time. Please go to my website, BootsyGreenwood.com. I got a book for you there. I've got a bunch of materials over there, honestly. Check out my podcast. It's on a lot of RSS feeds. And also, please check out my amazing partners at contentsafe.co. They make sure that these videos don't get taken down. If they do, they'll be back up. They're on other platforms. They're all over the place. They're amazing people, and I really, really appreciate everything that they do for not just me, but an entire community of content creators who are not mainstream platformed. Thank you so much for your time, and we'll see you on the next video.